Hey guys, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Can you guys see my PowerPoint? Great. So as Lexi mentioned, I'm going to talk about an initiative that we're undertaking in Biddeford, Maine, to increase school readiness for all kids in the community. And I'll go at a pretty high level, knowing that we can talk about this in more detail in the breakout session. So just very quickly, school readiness, as we know, is a critical benchmark for long-term success. Kids who are ready for school are much more likely to read on grade level by the end of third grade and graduate from high school and even move on to post-secondary education. Biddeford Ready is not a program that has program participants. It is focused on community level change, if you're familiar with collective impact or results-based accountability. So it's focused on a population result. So we want to ensure that all kids in Biddeford Ready are ready for school. We are doing this through a coalition approach or a collaboration approach. And we were one of the founding partners of that collaboration. We, the school district, the city, and then our local United Way came together to form this initiative, and we now have about 40 partners. One of the early strengths of the initiative was to get funding through the Maine Community Foundation to do a planning year. So we were able to spend some time doing some really good analysis of the barriers to school readiness in the Biddeford community. It was also an opportunity for us to engage in partners and make folks aware of the work that we wanted to do and what we were trying to achieve. And the result of that planning year then was us identifying 3 initial strategies. The first was to increase access to high quality early care education. And there we focused on increasing quality. The second was community awareness of the importance of school readiness and the barriers to school readiness. And then the third was a focus on adverse childhood experiences and resilience. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. That's what we received ARPIC funding to support. We strive to be a data-focused initiative. And so just a couple of data points that led us to this. The first, in terms of school readiness, is that only about 1/3 of incoming kindergartners in the district meet the developmental benchmarks for readiness using a tool that they use, the Dial4 assessment tool, that covers a range of domains. So that says to us that there is a high need to work on school readiness in the community. In terms of ACEs specifically, there is no data in Biddeford specifically, but in Maine, about 1 in 4 children experience 2 or more ACEs. And that is very high. That's the highest in New England, and it's high nationally. And that translates into Biddeford, about 950 kids ages 0 to 17, about 25% of which are under the age of 5, experiencing 2 or more ACEs. And that obviously can have a that type of trauma can have a detrimental impact on a variety of things, including school readiness. So let me just talk pretty quickly at a high level about some of our major strategies and our takeaways in terms of our ACEs and resilience work. Again, we aren't developing a program that has program participants. What we're developing is a strategy and have begun to implement as a strategy that focuses on changing the conditions in the community so that we will reduce ACEs for all kids in the community and increase resilience for all kids. There are primarily 3 strategies we're pursuing to do that. The first is education. We're doing a series of ACEs trainings for key stakeholders, parents, early care and education providers, the police, child development services, et cetera. And I can talk more about that in the breakout, about what that looks like and how we've done that. The second is general awareness. And so that is through event participation, social media, the website, et cetera. Again, I can talk more in detail in the breakout on that. And then the third, and I think this is where the innovation really lies and is the key, is we're also focused on sector-specific environmental change. And the idea there is that we want to look at the policies and practices in specific sectors, either where those policies, the current policies and practices may be contributing to trauma, or where a change in those policies and practices may increase resilience. So for example, what practices do the police have when they actually are engaged in an incident at a home where somebody has a young child? Or what practices does general assistance have when they're engaged with families? And then some of the more obvious places are schools and early care and education providers, and also our medical partners. What practices do they engage in? And so sector-specific policy and practice change to reduce trauma and promote environmental change. And that is where we believe the real community level change will happen. So we're doing both those things at a community level, but in sectors. And then finally, a key piece of this is measurement. How are we doing on this? Is it making a difference? And if not, tweak our strategies. In terms of some takeaways from some of our early work, partnership is essential. Brianna already talked about this, but we have a lot of partners in Maine and in York County who are already doing resilience work and ACEs work, and so we've been able to partner with them. And again, I can talk in the breakout about how we did that more specifically. Start with what is working well. We have some good examples of some anti-trauma work and some resilience work that is working well in Maine and in Biddeford community specifically. And so we've been building from that. Our approach is not to build new programs where they're not needed, but it's to work from what's there and to boost it and enhance it if it's working well. Another takeaway is to borrow shamelessly. Obviously tailor it to your community, but there's a lot of work nationally around ACEs and around resilience. And the folks who are doing that work are happy to share it. And so we have a lot of resources that we have leveraged, and hopefully now we are also contributing back to. In terms of key challenges, staffing has been a very difficult challenge for us. This requires staffing, it requires capacity to implement these strategies. And we have struggled with that particular issue. And that has been made worse by COVID. And then COVID itself, of course, has, I think, had a significant impact on anybody that's trying to do a community-based or collaborative work. And I'll just leave with some quick images here of some of the materials we put together. There's the resilience page from our website, some resilience materials we put together, and some of our social media. So I will stop there and hope that you guys will join me in my breakout.